Okay, welcome back to the Redefine Hustle podcast. I have a guest here today. So excited to chat with her. I just met Haley, I think last month, maybe 2 months ago, in a Facebook group. Surprise, surprise.
Go figure.
I posted in a group and I was introducing myself and talking about living in Arizona and looking to connect with people. And here came Haley, like, come find me on Instagram. So I went over there and started chatting with her. And I am so excited to have you here today. Let me tell you a little bit about her, and then I'm going to let Haley tell you all about her story. She is a mom of 3 girls, and she is a business strategist and community builder, as well as the co-founder of Collab Culture. So excited to have you here today. I
Yeah.
want to hear all about how you got into this.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, it's a long journey, friend. We will try to keep it brief. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Lindsay, thank you for having me. I really stumbled into entrepreneurship very ungracefully, if that's even a word. My background is in corporate healthcare administration. So I actually worked in the healthcare space for just shy of 20 years, which I realize I'm mildly dating myself by making that statement. But I worked in that space. I have a master's degree in leadership and just a really innate passion for people. So when I worked in the corporate space, one of the big things that I did was leading teams. So teams of 5 people to 500 people, teams across multiple locations, multiple states, multiple departments. And it's just really something that's like ingrained in my DNA. So a couple of years ago, I was actually laid off from a corporate job, and it was the only industry I had ever worked in. I truly didn't know what to do with myself, to be honest with you. And I know that sounds dramatic because it's like people lose jobs every day, but I had never even been like written up at a job, let alone received a phone call on a Friday afternoon that was like, hey, cool story. We need to do some massive cuts in budget. You make a lot of money. We're cutting all these positions. Yours is one of them, effective today. Thanks so much for your service. And just for context, over the course of those 20 years, I only worked for 3 different organizations. So I'm a very loyal human. I don't hop around, and I was very much shook. So after that, I got back on the horse, as we all do. Got another job a couple weeks later, and again, about 6 months later, it was the same situation. Thanks so much for getting us up and running. We actually don't have the ability to pay you. You're our highest paid employee. And we're not contracted with insurances yet. So we have to trim the fat. You got to go. And it really sucked. And so I wish I had a better story to say how I landed in entrepreneurship, because it wasn't cute. It was very messy, and it was really out of necessity. But it's one of those things now, like hindsight's 2020, where it was like, oh man, like that's what needed to happen. Because I honestly would have stayed there. Like I was so good at my job. I was comfy, cozy. I was making the good money, all the things. And it really needed like an external force to knock me off the horse, if you will, to be able to land where I am today. So believe it or not, that actually is the short version. So flash forward to now, I actually originally, when I moved into entrepreneurship, was doing social media strategy. So it was something that I was just kind of naturally good at. I worked with business owners. Everybody was referrals from friends and family that knew, like, hey, she lost her job. She's looking to make some money. This is something she's good at. And so I just started getting referrals from word of mouth because of my network, which we'll talk about later. But it was just kind of this like beautiful organic building of this business. Um, Flash forward a couple of months into it, and I really found myself at a crossroad of finding like, I don't really know who my people are, right? Like I had worked in corporate for 20 years. Obviously, I had friends, but like that, when you're in an office setting and you have coworkers and like you're going to this place every day and there's this innate culture that's built into the ecosystem of this like corporate entity, and then you don't have that anymore, I'm like, oh, it's just me and my house and my family that work in school. And like, where are the people? Because like, that's what I need. Like, that's how I get my energy. So, one of my very best friends, Stephanie, and I, we've been friends for like 28 or 29 years. It's actually kind of insane. We had this conversation one day and we were like, man, like, we're really craving this. She had kind of made a pivot professionally as well. And we were going to some stuff on the other side of town, but really, really craving something that we could kind of say we want all the best parts of the things that we like, and we kind of want to like leave some of the other stuff to the side. And we really want it to be close to home because we have 5 daughters between the two of us, and we need to be present and accessible and all of the things. And so we decided we're going to launch this networking community, and we're going to do like coffee shop meetups, and there's going to be like 10 of us, and it's going to be so adorable, and it's just going to be like our little, mini mastermind, if you will. So we brought some of our connections that we had in the community, female founders, to this cute dinner party, and we were like, hey guys, this is our idea. Is it crappy? Like, do you want to come? Like, do you want to come hang out with us? And they were like, oh my gosh, we love this. Like, this is great. We're like, okay, perfect. 12 of us. Like, this is going to be it. And we launched it the next day. We're like, we're just going to put it out to see if there's like a couple other people who might want to join. And in the first 72 hours, we sold like 45 memberships. And we were like, oh, okay. So we're not going to meet at the coffee shop because I don't think that's going to work. And just over the course of the last 18 months, it has just really evolved into this very, very beautiful community that is really all organic, word of mouth referrals. We do get a fair amount of leads from Instagram, but we don't run ads. We don't do any kind of paid marketing. Everything is through community. And so there's kind of like a 2 prongs to my identity, is like community leader and co-founder of Collab Culture. And then I also have a coaching business doing business strategy, teaching other founders how to do the same thing, and really breaking down the barriers and the mindset of like what community has to look like, because everyone thinks it has to fit in this box with this pretty little bow, and it has to be this huge undertaking, and it feels so overwhelming. And it can look so different. Like, there's so many different ways that you can implement that. So that's what I do now, is I coach through one-on-one coaching programs and a group coaching program, really teaching people how to leverage people the right way, not the wrong way, through community, content, and teams. So dialing in your messaging, how you're relating to your people, how you're growing your network the right way, and then how you're utilizing the people that are helping drive the ship to make sure that we are all on the same page and we're really moving towards the same goal cohesively. So it's really long-winded, but hopefully that was helpful.
So helpful. I'm like, where do we want to start with this?
There's a lot to unpack.
There's so much. So, okay, I would say one of the things that came up for me in just kind of watching you and as I'm getting to know you is your passion for community. And I, as somebody who did this virtually, because I'm a twin mom, and I had NICU life, and I went through, like, I couldn't digest taking them out of the house by myself. My husband works and was like gone all the time. He has a really strong career and all that stuff. And funny, he's here at the house now, works out of the house. But years back when they were little, my little mom anxiety could not like handle taking twins anywhere. And so I built community online through Facebook groups, which is so similar to you, but I feel like you've done it in such a cool way, or maybe I'm the weird one that only focused on the virtual world. I don't know, but I would love to kind of dig into that a little bit, and where like the passion for that came from, and your thoughts around why that's so important, because I do believe that if you don't have a community, it is really tough with business, especially as a business owner. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think so. We launched Collab January of 2022. So it will be coming up on its 2nd anniversary here in January, this coming January. And so everyone kind of had like I hate to even bring this up, but like COVID PTSD, where right, everybody was isolated and everybody was used to not being able to go anywhere and do anything. And we were all like, just let us out,
Yeah.
let us out to be free. And
Yeah.
I think there is something, I totally agree with you. And I think there's a time and a place for both. And I'm actually a part, like I facilitate a community, but I'm also a part of multiple other communities that really serve me in a bunch of different ways. And I serve within them in different ways. But I think there's a time and a place for both. And I think for this community specifically, we were really craving something that was very hyper local, that was like, the relationships extended beyond the room. So Stephanie and I always use this phrase like in the wild. So like we know we're doing our job right when we see members of our community in the wild together, right? It's not just go to a meeting, check the box. I wore my name tag. I went, I did it. I don't talk to these people outside. So we actually have a Facebook group for our community, and that serves an entirely different purpose and is an amazing asset as a part of our community. But these people want to grow relationships. And this is the way that you're able to do just a lot of really cool stuff together, because you're able to be in the room. You're able to be kind of reading that body language and being able to like connect with, like have that human connection with people. And then not only that, but if you're geocentrically located in the same space, they're literally the people that you are going to go get services from, go purchase products from, right? Go, collaborate on events with. They're the people that are going to be really top of mind because they're close by. And we actually, last year, our format was a little bit different. So last year we still met 4 weeks out of the month. So the only times that's funky is if there's like a fifth Wednesday. But we did workshops every week. Okay, so 52 speakers, exhausting. We had speakers every week, and we put out a feedback survey. Our membership had only been, open for like 6 to 7 months at the time. It was like, hey, what do you guys like? We actually just sent it out again recently to our members. What's going well? And the feedback we got from them was like, this is so great, but it's like information overload, right? It's like I'm learning a new thing every week. I don't have time to even implement anything because I'm trying to run a business, raise a family, be the mom, do all the things, but also learn a new skill every single week and implement them. And we're like, okay, cool. What do you guys want? And they're like, we actually like want to just like hang out more and like network more. We're like, cool, you can do that for free on your own. But the thing is that I'm such a strong believer that there's like such a thing. And I do believe this is like one of my innate superpowers, is like being a curator of rooms, right? Sometimes people are like, just because you're in a room with a bunch of people doesn't mean it's the right room, right? There's like rooms you've walked into and you're like, this is awful. I don't want to be here. Like, why am I here? These are not my people, right? And so it's like, even though, yeah, they can network for free, they're like, they want some structure. They want someone else to facilitate it. They want to make sure that the people that are in the room are in alignment with what they're seeking, both personally and professionally. So really for us, it was like, how do we find that happy marriage between the two? And that's where our new format for 2023 came from. So we actually do a split hybrid, 2 meetings in person, 2 meetings online, and then one of each is networking and the other one is a workshop. So 2 workshops, 2 networking, half in person, half online. So it's like, the love child of our old format.
Yeah. And you guys do like, you'll have different events that are kind of like off of that, where I think you did, well, obviously last night we were together at a network event. And you did, I want to say you've done 2 other events that I've observed.
Oh, we did date night. We did a date night last month. Yeah, so we do in-person events, I would say about quarterly.
Okay.
And for us, like twofold. Like number one, it's a great opportunity for our membership to get out, to socialize with each other, hang out again, like roots run deep rather than wide, right? Like get better get to know each other better and things like that. But it's also like a lead generating event for us. So it's a way for us to create a low barrier to entry for people to come in and see that we're just normal human beings and that we're very kind people and just come hang out, have a glass of wine, order a pizza, whatever you want to do. So we do those. We actually did our first co-ed event, is the one you're talking about, the date night event, about a month ago. And that was a small business date night. It was kind of a new idea. Our community is just female. But we partnered with another one of our members actually who runs Upper West Side PHX. And we're like, let's do this small business date night and like let people's spouses be able to come and then other like male business owners and just again continue to like foster that really strong ecosystem of like hyper local community amongst each other. So that was new. We do a big Galentine's event in February, which is again like we do a massive great charcuterie grazing table and wine, and we have like a photo booth area. And so again, it's just opportunities for people to cultivate relationships beyond a meeting space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing that like has completely, and again, maybe I'm a twin mom that has literally been in a bubble because I was totally in a bubble. Now they're older, but I still sometimes wonder about my bubble. For what it's worth, I'm from Chicago and I've been here for quite a few years, but when I did get here, I was thinking about this last night. I was talking to one of the members and I was like, I don't, the only real connections I have are through the kids, like friends, parents, sports, stuff like that. So this is all so fascinating for me to kind of observe that the type of members you guys have are like brick and mortar. You've got like realtor. You've got like such a unique, to me, anyways,
Yeah,
mix of business owners. And I'm like, okay, how did they do that? So curious, like how you guys did that.
Yeah, I think to your point, I mean, we've got brick and mortar, online, service, product. We've got people who don't even own a business. They're literally like aspiring visionaries that are trying to figure out what it is they want to do, and they simply just want to be in the environment and make the connections and grow their network. And we've got multi seven figure, 150 employees, multiple locations, and like everything in between. And I think it honestly comes down to like we're not selling, right? I mean, we are selling. It is a paid membership, but what we're selling is like a feeling. And I know that sounds like so fluffy to say, but like we're really tapping into like how does this experience make people feel? This was one thing that we really noticed from like other things that we had been to is like how did we feel when we walked in? Like, what was the energy? Did we feel welcomed? Did we feel like an outsider? Did we feel overwhelmed? Like, what was the vibe? And I think we're so intentional at our meetings. This is actually very specifically why when we do drop ins, we only do it at that meeting at the end of the month, the in-person one at the complex, because we want to make it a good use of your time as well to be able to come in to meet a bunch of new people. We want you to feel seen. We want you to feel welcome. That's why we do randomized seating, because we want everybody to kind of be at a mix of new people every time. So we're just really intentional about curating the room and like the feeling that it creates for people. Stephanie mentioned this at the happy hour last night, but she's like, you probably won't see us again or together again after this moment. And that's very intentional. And it's one of the great parts, honestly, about having a partner in the business is that when we're at events, we're really able to be intentional about circulating separately and making sure that we're able to connect with people on a personal level, face to face. And so I think for us, we're really tapping into people's emotions of like, where do they feel like they're lacking in their desires, their business, what is it that they're wanting? And we're really creating a culture that sells itself. Like, I can't tell you how many conversations I walked up on last night, and it's a member very organically talking about how much they love this community. Like, it's not ours, it's theirs. We simply just are like the stewards of the mission,
Yeah.
right? Like we're the facilitators, but it's so little about us. Stephanie and I actually only teach in the community like once a year each. It's not like we're constantly leading stuff. We're just the facilitators, and we have created a culture where they feel so bought in to that and wanting to sustain that community driven, non mean girl, non cringy, just very, very open feeling. And so I think for us, through our email marketing and our social media and just simply how we talk about the community for people, we're just like tapping into the feels. And it's like, if that feels aligned for you, then it's going to be a yes. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But we're just very, very crystal clear about the experience that we want people to have.
Yeah. And and for what it's worth, you most definitely had somebody last night. It was like, what questions do you have? Who can I introduce you to?
Right.
It was like so cute and so excited. So you're doing your job. Uh,
Oh,
did this come from like it's so interesting because you guys both come from corporate and then things kind
no. So we've actually both had, we refer to it as like our 1.0 life. So we had our 1.0 life. So I told you about mine, obviously in the healthcare space.
yep,
And
yep,
then Stephanie and her husband actually built a mega successful mortgage branch. So in the mortgage industry, they do lending. And so they built this team like bootstrap from the ground up, grew it. It was like insanely profitable, killing it. And she just had like this moment where she was just like, is this it for me? Like, is this what I'm going to do? And she actually decided to pivot. They still have the mortgage brand. She actually does business development for them still now. And her husband runs it, but they also have, she's a speaker, like a keynote speaker. And then she wrote a book, and she was just really feeling a draw to like make a hard make a hard right into doing something else. So they have this mortgage company, they run it together. She does business development for them, and they still have that, but she also, her primary function, I guess I should say, is keynote speaking, like motivational. She does a lot of motivational speaking, talking on clarity, getting out of your own way, things like that. And then she wrote a book called Meant for More. So we, although different, we did both have kind of a life change in the same era, if you will. And
yeah.
so I think that's what made it like so much more magnetic for us, because we were like seeking, we were already friends, but we were like seeking that same desire. And then we just kind of were like, well, this is what we want. Maybe other people want it too.
Yeah, that's so interesting because you guys like are so very passionate about this community. And I know that's something that you personally coach people and support them on, right?
Yeah.
So when you're working with someone in your coaching business and are you teaching them kind of like, what does that look like as far as, um, say I came in kind of not understanding this concept of community, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions. I know we were talking about this earlier. There's a lot of misconceptions around community. But when you ask people, a lot of times they'll think it's this big overarching like undertaking. It has to be something massive. It has to be this formal membership. It has to look a certain type of way. It has to be a Facebook group. It has to be whatever these things are. And actually, it can be any of those things. And it can actually be a ton of other things. You can cultivate community through a highly curated email list and simply utilizing storytelling through your emails to create an immersive environment for people where they literally feel like they're like reading your diary, right? They're like part of your world. They feel bought in. Like, think about your favorite influencer, right? Your favorite influencer. Influencers create community all the time. People have bought into them, their family, their story, all of these things. And so when I'm working with people, it's really unpacking, and I kind of take them through a series of steps to figure out, what does community look like for you? What is it that you're looking for? How are you wanting to serve in this capacity? how are you wanting to this, or how are you wanting this to be like an extension of your business or brand, right? Is it a funnel? Is it simply growing? Like, is it creating customers for you? Is it creating a referral network for you? How are you giving to other people? So it's really talking through different things that they need to consider first about how they're going to create this culture, right? It's less about the platform it's hosted on, the cadence of a meeting schedule, any of those things. And it's a lot more about who's at the table and why are we there, right? I actually just launched this series of like intimate dinner parties, and it's called The Table. And it's very, very intentionally called that because if you actually research like the history of the table, there's a lot of psychology around where that came from, right? Think about it. Tables are where people come to gather, right? We're all facing inward towards each other. It's a place where we're able to connect, where we're able to grow relationships, resolve conflict, make decisions. Like all of those things are done around a table. And so I think that people really have to think a lot less about the nuances of like, well, how am I going to execute it? And really focus more on like, what's the purpose? Who are the people? And then what does that look like for me? So, yes, if somebody came in and they're like, I want to create a collab culture, could I tell them how to do that? Yes. But if they're not so dialed in on the first part, the second doesn't matter, right? There's communities all over the place. I'll put that in quotes. Communities. There's groups all over the place. A group and a community are not the same thing. Like the conversations that people are having are cultivated by the depth of the relationships that are being formed. And people post in our group all the time, like, hey, personal things like I'm newly a single mom. I'm really struggling trying to figure out how to navigate. Like, does anyone have any words of encouragement or like better systems that I could be putting into place with my schedule? Or are there any other single moms that might want to get together for dinner? I just really feel like I need to feel supported and, try to navigate this new season of life. Like, that has nothing to do with business, right? But these people feel that the space and the culture of this community is a safe one and somewhere where they are in the midst of their people. So I wish there was like a cookie cutter answer to say when I teach people to build community. I mean, if you want to, we can talk about that in another time and we can work that out if you want to do one of my programs. But I think it is not a one size fits all model. And I actually find so much beauty in that because I think that is how you create a solid foundation for something that can really grow and evolve rather than haphazardly popping things up left and right, hoping that something sticks.
Yeah. So when you, I want to ask this well, when you, hopefully that makes sense. When you go about, offering your services and selling, if you will,
selling, yeah.
How do you like approach that type of, is it like storytelling and, I'm obviously very used to a real, like a sales process and things like that. And I'm so intrigued because I'm like, how do you work through if we have people out here listening, for example, who are like very passionate about this? First of all, you guys can just go follow her, send her a message. Okay, first and foremost. But like, I'm so intrigued on how people know, like, oh, I need to like learn this. I need to understand this, and this is why, because it's kind of comes back to always like, why is this important? And most business owners are looking to increase their business and growth. And you really have this like depth to community conversation.
I think being fully transparent, it is really hard to sell community by itself.
Okay.
If once you get it, you get it. Like there are conversations I have with people and I'm like, they understand so clearly the like monetary value. Like if we're just being 100% transparent, like the opportunity that can come from that, right? Think about, I used this analogy the other day and I'm like, you can go to the lead well only so many times before it's dry, right? Like there's only so many times you can go to a certain area, and we have to be evolving and growing those things. And me going to a networking event and handing out 100 business cards, that is so, I will throw those business cards away. That is not a lasting impression for me, right? But if you were to come up and you were to say, like, hey, this is what I do, this is how I help people, and you tap into that emotion a little more, and we have a conversation, and you're like, hey, here's my info. I printed these at Staples today. But I really would love to help you. I would rather have 3 of those conversations in an entire night and really understand and get to know people a little bit better than go for volume. So I think full transparency, community on its own is a little bit of a hard sell if you've never been a part of and been able to experience that before. For me, people who are part of collab are like my literal warmest network because they know, right? They've drank the Kool-Aid. They know that it is like, wow, chef's kiss if done the right way. And so I think the barrier to entry there is less. For me, I really teach in like a 3-prong system. So I talk about how people can increase their revenue, their retention, and their reach. Those are like the 3 deliverables, if you will. And the vehicle is content, community, and team. So we're really focusing on how the people get you the goals. And the people is like, how are we communicating with our external audience? How are they consuming our content through social media, podcasting, email list, blog, like anywhere that they're feeling a personal connection to us? What does that look like? Then through community, how am I facilitating? Am I simply participating more intentionally? Because that's a thing too. I actually created a freebie specifically around this that's like 3 steps to networking on purpose. And it's talking about how to steward your time more responsibly, make the right decisions of the rooms to be in, and then execute more efficiently and with better intention when you're in them, because more rooms isn't always better either. So whatever side of the coin you're on, you don't even necessarily have to start something per se, but you can surely participate a lot more intentionally. And then obviously teams is like, who's on your team, who is helping execute this vision and making sure that you're moving in the right direction. So I think it's like, again, it just goes back to that like relationship building, allowing people to see through storytelling and having them understand like this is a long haul marathon. This isn't like you're going to say, join, oh, I'm in community now, I'm going to get all these referrals. I actually had get a nauseating number of DMs in our inbox with 2 questions. Number 1, how many leads will I get? Or referrals, whatever, fill in the blank. Number 2, how many fill in the blanks do you have in your group? How many real estate agents? How many estheticians? How many fill in the blank? Sometimes it's a very innocent question. Sometimes I can just peg. I'm like, nope, these are not our people. You're not in the right place. And I will very kindly, with love, share with them. Our directory is public. You're more than welcome to go to our website and take a look at it anytime and see all the amazing women that are part of this community. As far as the leads, I actually like cringe at referral requirements and all these rules and homework. Like I'm a grown adult. I don't need somebody to tell me that I have to do all these things. And so my thing is like, how much work are you willing to put in to foster those relationships? That's up to you. That's not up to me. If you give, you will get tenfold and then some. But if you just show up like hands wide open, like give it to me, people feel that energy. It's like thirsty, right? Like it's not a good look. And people are able to discern between those 2 things real quick. And I don't even care if you're in an online group or in person.
Right. Totally.
People feel that vibe. I actually got a DM 2 days ago or yesterday from someone I met at a networking thing online in another group. The only message we had exchanged was like, hi from whatever call, like a simple, like, hello. the next message this person sent me was, have you seen blah, blah, blah about my offer for this? I think you'd be a really great fit, blah, blah, blah. That was the next message. I've literally never exchanged any other piece of conversation. And for me, I'm not even going to look at your offer because I'm immediately turned off by like the approach. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I do what I do because I didn't want to be the
Like,
person.
hey, girl. Hey, girl.
Exactly. It's like my whole story. I was told like send all these messages, and I was like, or I could create a community and serve them first, and then
Yeah.
when I'm ready to talk to them about things, when it's the right time, versus
Mm-hmm.
hey girl. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
And there's simple things that you can do, just like if I said one thing that you could start doing to foster deeper relationships with your people, whether that's through social media, it's through Facebook, it's through Instagram. I personally run the social media for our community, and every new person that follows our account that would fit our target demographic. It's not like we're blocking them if they're from like another state or whatever, but anybody who would be like local that's a female business owner, I send them an individualized message when they follow us. I go through them probably every other day and I use their name. If I can't find their name in their bio, I will literally go to their website and see if I can find it. If I can't, I will say, hey, friend, because that's just how I talk in real life. And I will simply say something along the lines of like, hey, Lindsay, thank you so much for the follow. I'm so happy that you're here. I can't wait to get to know you better. Tell me a little about what you do, whatever, like something simple. And the number of people that reply back and they're like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. Like, that's what we've gotten to. We're so bombarded with so much digital content all day that it's like, oh, it's a real human. Like they actually talk.
Yeah.
Or when I'm a voice message girly, like through and through. So sometimes we'll get DMs and I'll like be in the pickup line or whatever. And so I'll just like throw a voice memo back and I get the same thing. Like, oh my gosh, I love this. I wasn't expecting it. And it's like, it's just being a human being and allowing people to connect with you. So even implementing something like that, right? To utilize the tools you already have, things that you're already doing, time you're already spending on Facebook or on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever you hang out. I think there's a lot of opportunity to just simply open the door for human connection and then start having conversations with people. Ask questions. Where are they looking for support? What it is that they're craving? What do they feel like that's missing? Where is there a gap? You would be shocked. People will be more than willing to share. And it could simply be that they don't know how to solve it or they just don't want to because it feels overwhelming. So if
Mhm.
you can find that thing and create a solution, it could be free, right? I'm hosting these networking calls for community builders and it's free. And it's just like, come, let's have a conversation for an hour. Like, where are you struggling? Do you want feedback or something? Like, what does that look like? And just figure out ways to serve people in that way. And this is like a hill I'll die on. It doesn't have to be big, right? It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be huge. I literally just went on a mastermind retreat a couple weeks ago with 3 women I met on Instagram. We had never met in real life. We met on Instagram. We did like coffee chats on Zoom. We all run communities and we all have coaching or consulting businesses. That's the common thread we found. We met through other communities, shocker, like we talked about earlier. And we just really hit it off. So we started coffee dating on Zoom. It was great. And we were like, hey, we should like do this in person. Like that would be so fun. Literally booked an Airbnb while we were on the phone. Couple months later, we spent a week in Newport Beach. And if you see the video of us at the airport, we're like running in slow motion towards each other. Like we were best friends for 25 years that hadn't seen each other in a decade. And we had literally never met in real life. And I can tell you that that week and the time I spent with him and us pouring into each other in our businesses was more transformative than any paid mentorship I've ever paid for. But the room was so curated and we were in a space to serve each other in such an intentional way. And like that can be community too. for people and finding those people and like, how do you create that space to connect? And it doesn't even have to necessarily be customers. It could be like peers, right? Like people in the same space, people that are doing the same thing, but slightly different. Like, how can you support each other? So I'd really challenge you to think outside the box because it seems so basic. It's just like human, like be a good human, develop deep relationships with people, actually care, like be focused, don't be on your phone when you're talking to them. Like some of these things are so simple, but I think they're reminders that we need to be like beat over the head with sometimes because it truly, like, I cannot tell you the amount of testimonies that we have of how our community has literally transformed people's businesses. Like from not being in inception 18 months ago to being on track to be a 200K business this year. Like we have stories after stories of like just the support and referrals and all the things that have came from this group, but it only happens because of the culture that is like so deeply ingrained in it.
That is so good. And I'm like, my phone was in my pocket and I was having these deep combos last night. I'm feeling for somebody who has been online for many
Yeah.
years and is literally just broken into the local world, which sometimes I'm like, where have you been? But anyways, we're here. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I was this all, yes, I love it.
Mhm.
Okay, this has been so good. I'm so like, this is just, I love this. I appreciate everything you've shared. Where can I send everybody to find you? What do you have going on? That they-
Yeah. I was like, I hang mostly on the gram. I am on Facebook and trying to get better at LinkedIn. So come find me there because it will give me more motivation to be more active in that space. But the Instagram is the best place to find me. So I'm at the Haley Westfall. And then you can check out Collab Culture's page on Instagram as well. It's at collabculture.az. If you are interested in leveraging community as an extension of your business or simply want to be in the room for the conversation, I am hosting a free series of networking calls once a month. There is a call for aspiring community builders as well as established. I would say aspiring is like visionary slash early stage, or maybe someone who's like attempted something but it just hasn't gone super well before and so they're kind of like trying to get back on the horse. Those conversations are more around like brainstorming, what could this look like for my business, what do you guys think of this, you know, kind of vision and things like that. And then the established one is more, you know, people who have podcasts that they've been cultivating community through, or Facebook groups, or a community like we have through Collab, or a virtual community, or they host events like pop-up events. That is more, you know, conversations around things that are going well, things that aren't going well, wins that they've had, different kinds of tools and resources, tech, things like that that they've come across. So the conversations definitely differ, but don't worry, if you pick the wrong lane, we can always move you over to the other side. It's no big deal. If you find me on Instagram at the Haley Westfall, there's a link in my bio where you can opt in for those calls.
Yeah, and I can, if you want to send me, I know I think I have it, but if you want to resend it to me, I can also put it in the notes.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing with us today. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.